It's just a great privilege for me to represent the University of Richmond in this rivalry game. Very excited about the position we've put ourselves in here at this stage of the season. And I believe that, we've got a lot of work to do here this week to earn the right to win and to find a way to win. I think in a game like this, you really can throw the records out the window. I think it's totally irrelevant. I think the team that is most determined to win, has the best focus and execution, will be the team that will win the football game, and we're hopeful that we'll be that team with that focus, determination, and execution. At this time, I'll open it up to any questions we may have from the media.
Coach, what do you think advancing to postseason might mean for these guys, especially based on last year?
John, is that your William and Mary tie you have on right there? No, it's not. Okay. It's kind of caught my attention. Well, I think it'd mean an awful lot for, our program. I think you're always trying to establish or reestablish your program. I think it'll validate the fact that we're back. I think that that's probably the most definitive thing that I could say. I think from the perspective of our older players, it'll be a legitimate reward for a lot of hard work. And it'll be a great ending to what would have to be considered a real outstanding career here in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think for the younger players, it again offers the reality of what our expectations are, and kind of reestablish that bar of expectation.
All you have to do is look at last year's game when Richmond had lost 7 in a row and went down to the last play versus William and Mary, kind of different roles this year with the teams. You probably assume it's going to be a close game when it comes to these two.
Yeah, all their games have been, and then all of our games, have been. The games of most significance have all been very close, hard-fought games that go down to the end. I tell my guys all the time, it doesn't have to be that way. They tend to end up that way quite frequently. I thought we had opportunities in some of our most recent games to sustain a lead and create a deficit that might have been, too much for the opponent to overcome, but we never quite got to that point, which is a credit to the competition. And that's probably why these games tend to go down to the last minutes or the last series, because that other team, the team that's coming from behind, is usually a pretty good football team in this league. So we're certainly prepared for a game that would last 60 minutes and, just find a way to come out of there with a victory.
Coach, do you consider this a playoff game for you guys?
Well, that's a good question. You know what? No, I don't. I know the most common answer is yes. You got to win to go on. But, the thing about the playoffs, you either get in it or you don't get in it. So to say that a game leading into the playoffs is a playoff game, I don't understand that. And a lot of people will support that. How could it be a playoff game if you're not in the playoffs? So, you got to get in. Now, do we treat this game like a must-win to get into the playoffs? Yes. All right, but, when the year's over and you look back, the William and Mary game is not a playoff game, so I can't treat it like one. So I guess that's, kind of how I feel. We're certainly of the mindset that we need to win the football game to advance and get into the postseason.
Sorry, John. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen Saturday anywhere, but would you project how many teams from the Colonial you believe should get into postseason in 20-team field?
Should or believe will?
Well, could you touch on both?
Should, 5.
Will?
Not quite 5.
If you're wearing a committee member hat right now, what sticks out on the Richmond resume?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that stick out. Now, again, I don't want to get in advance of, beating William and Mary, I think would be a positive thing on your resume. Winning a rivalry game at the end of the season, winning on the road. There's 3 teams on our. There's 3 teams that are ranked ahead of us right now that we've beaten this year, that we share identical records with. So I think that's a pretty good starting point right there. It's like, to most, perception is reality. So for those that have been close to our program this year and have observed and, been part of or taken part in any way, shape, or form, I think most of those folks would say, yeah, this is a playoff team. From outsiders that saw us as an 0-8 team last year in conference play and unranked, there's a little less momentum, for that. But I think if you really dissect, the reality of the facts, the competition, they always talk about good wins or bad losses. Well, I mean, we've got plenty of good wins, and we don't have any bad losses on our resume here this year. So, obviously, to be able to continue to communicate like that, we have to win Saturday. And that's really the focus. And I think our kids are extremely aware of that.
What reason do you have to believe that William and Mary will give you a top-notch effort based on their troubles this year and it's sort of going down the drain for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's another one of those questions that I kind of I just kind of see that differently than most people see that. A lot of times that question is phrased, well, they have nothing to play for. And I'm like, well, I don't understand what that means, they have nothing to play for. I mean, I played at Wake Forest University, during a run. We didn't win a lot of games, but I never felt like I didn't have anything to play for. You play to compete, you play to win. But, it's all that senior day, it's all that end of the season rivalry, all those things, add up. And there's probably an element at the end of the day that, you want to finish your season, on a winning note, build momentum, so there's a lot of things that that go into it. The psychology of winning is very legitimate, in team sport, in terms of the psyche of the team, and where are they at. And you always want to get to a certain level, of focus, intensity, understanding, and you can get there in a lot of different ways. You can get there because everyone in the world knows it's a must-win critical game. You can get there for other reasons too. And you see teams all the time, go out and play complete games or in situations where it kind of defies logic, and they go out there and they play at a very high level, and I think that's the greatest thing about sport, competition, and then I think particularly football, because of all the different dynamics that go into the game, offense, defense, special teams. There's a lot of people weighing in every day on the outcome of the game. So, I think, my expectation is Coach Laycock will have those boys revved up and ready to go. And, needless to say, that's, the challenge that we have, and to make sure that we are at or exceed that level and perform accordingly.
Coach, what are your impressions on quarterback Michael Graham?
Yeah, I've seen him before. I saw him last year on film. It's not like he hasn't had career starts under his belt. I think he's doing a great job. I mean, what he did up at New Hampshire was very impressive. What he did down at Old Dominion was very impressive. Now, you know, you always look at the good and the bad. I mean, if you're looking at, you know, his ability to make plays, it's extremely legitimate. You know, they're capable of functioning at an extremely high level with him playing quarterback and running the offense. He's got a good presence, good understanding of the offense, and he's really putting the ball in good spots for those receivers to go up and make plays. Now, you know, he's made a couple errant throws that has cost them opportunity. But again, that's, you know, every quarterback has to deal with that in late game situations. So all in all, I think Coach has done a great job all year with his substitution, rotation, overcompensating for injury and setback. And he just has such a legitimate system in place that these guys can go in there and they understand, they grasp it, and have an opportunity to master it and put together a complete game. And statistically, he was really, really good last week down at Old Dominion.
In your time in coaching, have you ever seen either for your team or an opponent's team having to deal with so many issues at quarterback like William and Mary's had the last couple of years?
No, I don't. I haven't. But, you know, you go right up the road to University of Maryland, that they're dealing with even a more significant type of situation where they're kind of out of quarterbacks, you know. And, you know, even the guy right now that's listed as the backup, I know he's a good player. I was involved in recruiting him out of high school. You know, turning the question around a little bit, again, I can remember back, and I've said this before in here, but when we took Strauss here in January or December, you know, whenever it was, you know, I didn't know if I needed him or not. I didn't have a good enough understanding of what we had, but there's a position you cannot afford to come up short at. Coach Laycock knows that better than I do. So he's got guys in his system that are very, very capable. And right now it's maybe not his first choice, but he's got options to go to.
Anything else for Coach? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, guys.